You are now listening to the Going North podcast, where you'll receive tips and techniques to advance yourself. I'm your host, Dom Brightman, and every week we're going to be hearing from an author who's going to share their expertise to help you charge forward in life. On a quick side note, be sure to check out Going North the book. It's available in ebook, audio, as well as paperback form for those who love to read a traditional book. Now let's get on with the show. And today on the Going North podcast, we have, you guessed it, another author. But this time, this author's extra special because not only is she an author, she's also a mentor to the masses, a speaker, and a life strategist. And you're probably wondering who I have on this podcast today. It's a wonderful lady by the name of SharRon Jamison. How are you today, ma'am?
I am doing well, and I am so excited about being on your show with you. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
Woohoo! My pleasure indeed. My pleasure indeed. So I just went ahead and gave a short little introduction, but I can tell from your website, and considering it's on a special day since you just celebrated a birthday recently, pretty sure there's tons of stuff I forgot. So mind filling in the gaps where I may have missed some things?
Sure. I am also a corporate leader in a pharmaceutical company, and I've been in the pharmaceutical industry over 30 years. I am an 8-time author. 4 of the books are individual, 4 are parts of anthologies. I'm also a mom and a minister and a speaker. I am a social activist and a community activist, and I believe in justice. And I try to use my pen and my voice and every platform to help people understand that we have more in common than we are different. And I try to share that message wherever I go. And so I'm really excited to be here.
Woohoo! Glad you're here too. Using your pen for justice. That's amazing. Never heard that. Heard it said like that before. Oh man, so 8-time author too. So what led to book number 1?
Yes, book number 1 was really part of a healing process. The book is called I Can Depend on Me. And my son had just gone away to college, and I always wanted to be a writer. It's interesting. I was a journalism major. And so I wrote my first book around 25 years ago, but I didn't have the courage to share it. It started from my journal entries dealing with integration. I grew up in Missouri, and at that time the schools were being integrated. And can I tell you that even though something is the law, if it's not the love of the people, you will pay a price. And so I paid a tremendous price by getting bullied and beat up and a concussion, and the list goes on.
Oh.
And so I wrote about that experience as a way of trying to release it, because I was filled with resentment and anger and embarrassment and humiliation. So I wrote it years ago, but after my son went to college, I said, you know what, I'm going to start this journey. I'm going to do what I always wanted to do and always what I went to college to do. And so I published my first book. I self-published, and it was very cathartic. But then I also started developing workshops around some of the issues, the 5 principles in the book. And so I was on my way, and that was in 2012. Since then, I've had 8 other books, and I look forward to continuing to hopefully write a book a year. That's my goal. And all I'm doing is looking at my journals. Back then, we called them diaries in the day, and so I always kept diaries. So I have a lot of content that I want to share, especially as I learn and grow and know that it's so important for us to leave wisdom for this next generation. So that's how I started. It was part of a healing process, and now I use my healing and the healing lessons that I endured. I use them to help other people and to inspire people and to illuminate people. And I really enjoy being a contribution and a conduit in the lives of others.
Amen to that, indeed. That that is amazing, indeed. And content dropping is what you're doing, which I love. I checked out your life lessons learned I believe it was a birthday video. You did a Facebook Live, checked out on YouTube, and I was like, oh, man, I got a freaking powerhouse here. I even had to write down the first rule, which is be around builders and not bankers.
Yes. And I think that's critical. One of the hardest lessons I had to inculcate in my own life was that you don't need people to hang with. You need people to build with. And that building process is important because we are always under construction in some areas of our lives. It might be emotional, our love, our health, our business, our career. And so you always need to have people around you who can help you build your life by providing new data, new exposure, new information, new insight, because none of us becomes our best selves by ourselves. We grow and develop in community, not in isolation. But I find that some people are more bankers. They get all the knowledge and they hoard it, or they get all the money and that they hoard it. And so they're not really adding value to anybody else's lives. They really are people that are seduced or intoxicated, what I call by self-aggrandizement, and they don't leave anything for others. They don't leave a legacy. They don't try to share. They don't try to contribute. And a lot of people are bankers. They're into this sense of accumulation. I'm going to get more. And my goal is to do more. So that's why I think it's important that people assess their friends and take inventory and see who's growing, because if a person is not growing in their own lives, they can never add value to your life. But we have to remember that our friends are not accessories, that they're assets to our lives. And so we want to make sure that we have our lives loaded with assets so that we can be the best version of ourselves versus a lot of people who I call our accessories. They look good, but they're not helping you be stronger, braver, or bolder.
That's right. True friendships are not like necklaces and other accessories, right?
Yeah, but we hold them. And it's interesting in this culture where we are so seduced by a person's looks, we pick people based on their looks, based on their ability to leave a legacy. We pick people based on who they know versus on principles. I always tell people, it's in my next book coming out, to let your purpose pick your people. Because if you walk in your purpose will guide you to the types of people that you need to accept and fulfill your divine assignment. Remember, you can't fulfill your divine assignment if you're walking around with people who are not skilled, who don't have resources, who don't have connections, who are not trying to add to their lives. I rather fly with the eagles. I don't want to be stuck on the ground with the chickens. But if you don't develop yourself and hang around people who have a growth mindset and a mentality for more, you will limit yourself. And I think that's really, really important, to look at your life and see who's building not only their lives, but their communities, but their bodies, but their organizations, but the world, versus people who are just hoarding and sucking up oxygen and giving nothing back in return.
Yeah, that's true. And you probably would have never gotten around to writing your first book, being around those who just suck the life out of you all the time.
Yes, and you find that people who are not doing anything, they're the only ones that have time to suck up your energy. Because many of my friends who are forward thinkers, visionaries, trendsetters, pacemakers, people who are leaders, every type of leader in their own right, they're always looking at how can I get better so I can contribute more? How can I be a conduit? How can I be a vessel? How can I be a channel and not just a reservoir? So many people, bankers are reservoirs. They just sit there and hold stuff. And if you're sitting there just like a reservoir, it becomes swampy, stinky water. And I'd rather be a channel and a vessel that continues to enrich people as I go down this journey called life.
So a reservoir of nasty, stinking water and and being a chicken. So basically, if you hang around the chickens, you'll end up in the KFC that's located in the middle of the Florida Everglades.
That is a way to look at it. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's so funny when people I see in my own life and in the life of others, people who are saying, I don't have resources, but what do you need resources for? Resources only come to people who are in motion. And if you're not in motion, you don't need more. What do you need more for if you're not in motion? And I think that when we understand that we need to be in motion and be in progress, not activity, because all activity is not advancement, but to be in purposeful progress, that type of action and that type of motion, I think sometimes more opportunities come, resources come, and then you have more to write about. So you have more to share with the world. And you have content that you can write a book and make it a workbook. You can make it a class. You can make it a video. Everything is created by the word. And I'm not trying to be religious, but, you speak a word. Your words create the world, not the other way around. And so I think that having the power of the pen is not only life-changing, but it's also life-defining if people accept the responsibility and understand the power that you have in the pen. And my goal is to use the pen to illuminate and impart data and to inspire. And I know that I can do that. Everybody can do that because we all have our unique stories. We all are different pieces of this collective puzzle. And if we share, I get better and you get better, and we all get better collectively when we share our stories. Because everybody doesn't know everything. Everybody has a piece of the puzzle, but we all need each other's pieces to be whole.
That's right. Kind of like Reese's Pieces making a whole peanut butter cup, right? We're all pieces.
Yes. I love your analogies. Yes, the Reese's Pieces. We all want to be part of that. And in that being part of that, we become strengthened. We become boistered. We have a stronger foundation to withstand the test of storms and time. Because the stronger you are, the more that you can, more agile you can be and more flexible you can be. But that is only dependent upon you growing. And that's why writing and being an author is so important, because you create transformation. You create change. You create revelations. You ask the questions. You challenge convention. You don't have to surrender to the status quo. And any time where you can raise a question, you raise an opportunity. You raise awareness. And when we know better, we do better. And so that's why being an author and using the voice, using the pen is so critical, especially in this time that we're living today.
So true indeed. So true indeed. So speaking of using pens, I love your wordsmithing. It's really awesome. Instead of being life-changing, be life-defining. That is awesome. So how did you get to that point? Any advice for those who are looking to get to that level of speaking so eloquently?
Well, thank you for that. I think part of that is because my father's a minister, and I think that preachers, our pastors, are wordsmiths. I mean, you have to, And so I just think that being under my father and being around great ministers, it helped me understand the power of the words and also the rhythm of the words. Because what you find is that people retain information based on not only the words but the rhythm of the words when you weave them together in such a way that people can hold on to the message. And so I just think it's time. I just think it's time. I think if you become a reader, it's great. But I also think it's important to study good speakers and study a variety of speakers from a variety of industries, but also a variety of countries. And you can see the importance of storytelling. You can see the importance of word selection. You can experience the power of the pause, And I think that's really, really important. But I think growing up in the church is a great classroom for people who know that a pulpit or a platform is something that they feel called to.
Amen to that, indeed. I mean, a lot of churches usually have classrooms, but never heard someone actually describe it as a classroom for learning eloquence. That is very true when you think about it, especially when you have some guest preachers that come in Sunday afternoons, even sometimes Sunday mornings, and then it's like, oh, I like that. I need to write that one down. And then weeks on end, if you're a really good note taker, you collect all these notes, and then you end up learning how to speak somewhat like them, but making it your own after a certain amount of time.
Yeah, and that is so critical, especially for women. I think when you think about some of the top speakers in the marketplace and in different types of ministries, they're men. And I think for so long we have been taught as women to mimic men and not to use our authentic voice or develop a style of voice that speaks to your experience, but speaks into your experience that's consistent with who you are on the platform and outside of the platform. And I think that's the power of learning who you are and always know, practice as if you're speaking on a stage. I think that sometimes we have to always remember practice gets you ready for performance, but if it's something that you want to do, you always are thinking about, how can I say that differently? How can I say that more eloquently? How can I make it simpler? Because people remember the simple things, and they remember alliteration. So it's all those types of things that I continue to challenge myself to get better. And I get lazy sometimes, but when you are a writer, you see the laziness becomes very very clear. It's easy to spot. And I'm always looking up for something the source. However, speech writing is different than book writing, because the speech writing, you are writing for the ear, and writing for the ear is very different than writing for the eye. And sometimes I have to remember to make the switch. And then also corporate writing, because I am a corporate leader, I have to remember to keep making those changes. And sometimes I find it difficult to change back from corporate writing to pulpit writing. I can make the change from corporate writing to motivational speaking because that's not too difficult. But however, for corporate to ministry in the Black church tradition, I have to really be intentional to make that leap, so people will walk with me during the sermon experience.
True indeed. So that way you won't have to tell neighbors to wake up the fellow neighbor, right?
You know what? I think some people do that. I usually don't do that, but I just think that's just something that's done in the tradition, and it makes sense. Remember, sermons are not didactic. People participate in it, and any way you can get people to participate and repeat after me and say this and say that, any time there's audience participation, it increases audience retention. So it really it's a science behind it. I don't know if the ministers know that there's a science behind asking people to participate, but the science shows that you want to have greater retention, get people involved, have them to touch each other, have them to speak each other, have them to point each other, have them to repeat after you. So it's science. So you just think we were doing things that were scientifically based even before we knew it. But there's science behind that, and so I don't do that. I probably should do more of that, but I think it's important to get people involved, especially since people are leaving the church in droves. People are leaving all religions, but more quickly Christianity. And it's also important because people are not reading as much anymore. And so it's important to think about, now that we're deciding to Soar 2, that should have come out last week, but it's going to come out in maybe 2 months. I'm doing an audio version, and I would have never done that maybe 3 years ago. So I'm releasing the book in Kindle, hardcover, softcover, and audio. And so however people are able to grasp information and glean information, they'll have those different mediums to help them. And so it's interesting. So you have to, now when you write a book, you have to think about how it's going to sound to the ear, because audiobooks are on the rise, and people want audiobooks. And so it's going to be interesting, and I'm excited to do it, and I'm scared to death, but I'm one of those types of people, when I get scared, that's when I know to get going. So I'm excited.
There you go, to get going north.
Yes, going north, yes.
But yeah, you're right though, because I mean, it's great to be a published author and have the book out, but you gotta reach as many people as possible with the book through ebooks and, more importantly, audiobooks, because a lot of folks, they may not want to read it. Funny enough, motivational speaker Grant Cardone, one of his books, Seldom Be Sold, there's a version that it's a quick book where each page has like a QR code, and if you scan it with your phone, it'll take it directly to a video where he's talking about the content from that specific chapter. So it's a nice, innovative way to reach other people, because folks, like you mentioned earlier, folks aren't reading as much, or at least they're not reading physical books as much. They may be reading Facebook more than the actual book, but but they also just love audio and video and just staring at the phone. So it's a great way to get to them and add as much value to as many people as possible.
I never thought about that video piece. It's something I'm going to think about and put that code in there. I think that would be great. I never thought about that before. So thank you for that.
Oh, my pleasure indeed. I try to study the greats as much as possible. And speaking of studying the greats, have there been any books in addition to the Bible that have really inspired you to take action and to become the SharRon that you are today?
Sure, absolutely. I really enjoy books that challenge my head but speak to my heart. And so I really love anything by Iyanla Vanzant. I love everything by Maya Angelou. I love everything. I love how T.D. Jakes writes and how he speaks, because his writing is for the ear and for the eye. I really enjoy Damon Raymond's book. And so I read a variety of books. I read a book a week, and I think reading that often in a variety of authors helps me crystallize and clarify who I am as a writer, and also helps you find a way to separate yourself from the pack. I think when people open a book and they're reading anything about me, they can say, "SharRon, that sounds like you." And I think that's important, to have a style and a way of writing that that's easy identifiable. Now, I can say that when I look at my first book that I wrote, 6 years ago, I'm like, oh my God, but it was not good. It was good, but it's not. I wouldn't consider it good now. But excellence is always a moving target, because when you know better, you do better. But I still can see that same style. I like alliteration. I like making up my own words. I like making personifications and giving words physical activities. So I think that it's important to read the genre of books where you participate in, but also to see how people craft messages, not to imitate, but to get ideas. Because there's really nothing new under the sun, but what's new is finding a way to get your message across in a way that it reaches ears and hearts, to not only grow your brand, but to grow your visibility and to grow your impact. And that's really, really important. To me, writing a book is like leaving a legacy. The book will outlive you, and that's why when we look at Shakespeare and James Baldwin and Maya Angelou, all the people who wrote life-changing and life-defining books, we read them today. And that's what I hope to do. I hope to write something that is such a universal, based on universal truth, that 40 years from now, but 400 years from now, my writing is still relevant. And that's why I write a lot about universal truths. I don't write about trends. I don't write about fads. I write about universal truths that would help people live better lives, that would help people embrace difference, will help people celebrate who they are, but also honor the dignity and humanity of others. And all of my writing is based on those principles, because I think that when we love ourselves and we're able to extend that love to others, we're able to share differently and share fully, not our stuff, but who we are, in a way that elevates all of us to our highest versions of ourselves. And that's my goal. That's my desire. I also think that's my purpose and my calling. And I'm excited to try to do that in a way that's unique and that's a way that's different.
Beautiful indeed. And I'm pretty sure your works will be known for decades because you're going for the quantity to quality factor, writing a new book every year, right?
Yeah, that's my goal, and that's my goal, and also I'm always going to participate in anthologies too. To me, people ask me, why do I participate in anthologies? Because it's my principle. My principle as a human being is that you work alone, but you work in groups. So even if when I get, God willing, my New York bestseller that's on a bestseller list for years, that's my goal. I would still write with other women or other people in anthologies, because I believe in it. I believe in combined voices. I believe in unification. I believe in lending your voice to great causes. So I will always have my individual books, but I always will participate in anthologies every year to lend my voice and to put my voice with other amazing people. I think that's important. It's my philosophy. It's how I live my life.
Yeah, that's true. And plus with the anthologies, it gives you a chance to connect with other people.
Yeah, and that's important. Connection is everything, especially when you know how to connect. Now, I don't believe that people know how to connect well. We can see that with the state of the world. That I think the world is a testament to how we're not doing a good job. And that's in my book too. I write about how can we learn how to connect with people, but you can't connect with people without connecting to yourself. And if you don't know who you are and how amazing you are, you will always try to deal with someone from a place of feeling inferior or from a place of feeling superior. In any of those ways are detrimental. And so my writing hopefully speaks to that in a way that people can see their behavior in a way that gives them the impetus or the motivation to think differently. And that's my goal. I want my books to be books of transformation. I want my books to be books of illumination. I want my books to be books of abundance and strength and diversity. That's really important to me, and that's what I hope when people think of SharRon Jamison as an author. I hope those are the attributes and the characteristics, the adjectives that they use when describing me and my work.
Sounds sweet indeed. And you said something very interesting about connecting with others is that you have to first connect with yourself. So any advice for those out there who are still, in a way, lost, trying to find themselves, and they just want to get more clarity about themselves?
Sure. I believe that one of the biggest gifts that we can give ourselves is to sit down and try to peel away all of the layers and the credentials and the norms and the degrees and all the expectations and ask yourself, what do I really want? Who am I without all the stuff? And what makes my heart sing? When we know what makes our heart sing, it's easier for us to make choices to support being the best versions of ourselves. What helps our heart sing is really gives us some indication of our purpose. I think it's important for people to get quiet and understand what are their values and to be able to clearly peel away what value was told and taught to them and what value is really true. Because I think sometimes we have to challenge tradition because the tradition is not always the truth. We know that as people of color. And if we cannot distinguish between what's truth and what's tradition, we'll follow tradition and we'll always follow the crowd and not our conscience. But following your conscience requires a lot of courage. But you cannot get clear if you don't have the courage to ask the questions and to ask the questions of yourself. And so many people have inculcated so much guilt and shame, and they become robots to the status quo, and they become caged in these norms and these societal, cultural contexts that they won't ask the questions like, am I happy? Is this true for me? Is this the way I should love? Well, I don't like this. Why am I doing what mama wants me to do? We have to do background checks. We have to investigate everything that makes us feel small, everything that makes us feel silenced, everything that makes us feel shame, everything that makes us feel incongruent with who we really are. And let me tell you, I made a lot of choices, and I lost a lot of people in my life. One of my first choices, my first marriage, my father was a Christian. I married a Muslim. And I'm not married to him now, but we have a child. And for 6 years, I lost my family. But it's something about following your conscience and not the crowd that is liberating. And when you are able to stand in your own truth versus being a slave to tradition, that's when you're able to be a master of your own life versus being a slave to someone else's agenda. But you need courage to do that. And encouragement will come when you're clear. It's kind of like when you know that you know that you know, then you can stand up under. Understand, what can you stand under? You can stand under something when you have clarity. And clarity requires us to be silent. It requires us to pull away. It causes us to evaluate and to take inventory and to investigate. And it's not easy, because going along to get along is easy. It requires nothing from us to surrender our minds and our souls to the masses. It requires nothing. And that's why so many people do it. Thinking requires work. Following your own conscience requires courage. Saying no may cost you being rejected and ridiculed, but there's a cost to freedom. But when people won't pay the cost of freedom, they'll always be a slave. And that's why it's so important to pull away, get clear, and understand that clarity is a journey. It's never instantaneous. Becoming who you understand yourself is incremental, and you understand yourself more and more by the steps you take. And that's why movement is so important.
Oh, yes, ma'am, indeed. Yes, ma'am, indeed. Follow consciousness and not the crowd.
Yes, you have to. That's the only way. You have to. But here's the challenge. You have to know what's your own conscious. Some people have imbibed and inculcated messages for so long, they don't know what's real and what's true for them. They don't know what's relevant to their soul. And so I think it takes time and effort and courage to peel away all those messages and listen to your intuition. I always remember that if I want to have a wow in my life, I have to listen to the whisper. The whisper of your soul gives you the wow. You will never have a big wow without listening to the whisper. How do you listen to the whisper of your soul? You have to steal away and sometimes stay away so that you can hear yourself think. It's the truth. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. We're not talking about the R&B group, The Whispers, are we?
Oh, my God. So that took me back. I missed that. No, we're talking about your intuition. The whispers from your soul, your intuition, which I believe is God's voice speaking to you. And because I think that we have brains in our heads, but we have brains in our guts and our stomachs. And so when we can listen to that part of us that has wisdom, even without having knowledge, that's when we will move forward. There's parts of us, some things we just know. We don't know how we know, but we know. But we don't want to follow that because it's not rational. But just because it's not rational doesn't mean it's not real.
Very true. Very true indeed. Oh, my goodness, that is so true. So many value bombs after value bombs. Value everywhere.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to share.
All right, coming down the pike here. So if you were to go back in time and you were 21 in 2018, but you're still a published author with all of your experience, what advice would you give to yourself?
Oh, gosh. If I was 21, I would say maximize social media to get your word out. I would say learn and study how experts use all these different vehicles to gain visibility and increase your voice. Since I'm way past 21, I struggle with all these new vehicles to gain voice and visibility. But I think it's important. If you have a vision, you need visibility, and you need to increase your voice. And so I would say learn how to use social media. I would also advise me to connect with people who don't look like you. I think as this world becomes hyper-connected, and that the United States is not the only market to think about when selling a book. So think about how can you universalize your message, because people are people everywhere, and how can you connect through technology to connect with people on different continents to expose your book. Because just because your book doesn't sell in the United States, so what? The technology is the equalizer. So that's what I would say to a 21-year-old.
Amen to that, indeed. Funny enough, that's how some musicians back in the 90s, I believe it was Gang Starr, a rap group, they weren't doing too well over here at one point compared to Japan. When they went over to Japan, they had thousands of fans for them at a concert, and they were doing well in that continent. They never even been to Japan until their first performance. So you are right. It's true. It's not to worry about just the U.S. of A. The globe is huge. The world is your oyster.
Yeah, absolutely. And now technology allows us to do that. And that's what I think it's important that I'm trying to do too, is connect with people in different countries. Because if you build a big enough following, people will come and will want to partner with you. And that's the third thing I would say. Try to grow your visibility so that you can offer different types of currency to people, because relationship is a type of currency that you become a magnet for partners to work with you and an affiliate to work with you. And that's what I wish I would have done differently. This is what I will say too. Being an author is a business that I didn't understand when I first started. I wanted to go and change the world and blah, 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 blah. But you have to change. But you change the world through resources. You change the world through revenue. You change the world through relationships. And that is so important, because you can't grow in isolation. And so that's the piece of advice I would give my younger self. Connect. Not just connect with people, partner with people. I think that's what I would say. Partner with people and make sure that the partnerships are mutually beneficial. Because as long as people know that you will support them, people will come and find you. And that's why I feel like it's happened to me. People know that whatever I'm part of, I support it and I promote it and I'll do my part. And as long as a person doesn't get the big head and start to get intoxicated by their own success, right?
Right.
They will always have people willing to work with them, and also have a good reputation of people wanting to work with them to expand their message. And I think that's important.
Yeah, it's true indeed, because your reputation will precede you, good or bad. It will precede you.
Yes, it will. Absolutely.
Yeah, well, I think that was a proverb, right? It's better to have a good name than riches.
Yeah, I'm sure it's in the book somewhere. No, I'm sure it's in the hiding. I'm just playing.
It's in there.
Yeah. I remember that. Yeah.
Awesome. So for all the folks who want to keep in touch with you and keep up that visibility goodness for you, how can they get in touch with you?
I would love for people to connect with me on social media, everywhere, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter is my name, SharRon Jamison, my website. I would love for them to go on my website and sign up for my newsletter. I have two newsletters. One, they can get information about all my programs, but one is just only motivation. They can go on Bentley Soar News. And so I will hope that they will connect with me and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I try to be at every place where I think people are, because it's important for me to share my message. And so if they can find my name, they'll find me, and I look forward to connecting with them. And if they connect with me, I will definitely connect back.
Woohoo! Well, there you have it, folks. Go on ahead and connect with the wonderful SharRon, especially the YouTube page. She drops a lot of gems there. Listen to her birthday message, about 30 minutes of straight fire. Straight fire.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
That's right. You can cook up some knowledge s'mores after that session. So go on ahead and follow SharRon and all of her magical goodness pickup. Heck, even 3 copies each of all of her books, and be on the lookout for that audio book too. Because you're going to be reading your own books, right?
Yeah. Yep. I'm going to try, and so I'm excited. I'm excited to see how it goes.
Oh, don't worry, it'll go north. Don't worry. It's always good when the authors read the books, especially when they have awesome voices. It makes it even twice as good.
Oh, well, good. Well, I was to say a prayer for me.
Oh, you'll do fine. If you can speak in front of hundreds of people, you can record an audiobook.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Thanks a bunch for your listening ears on the Going North podcast. I hope you really, really enjoyed that episode. Be sure to share it with your friends and family, especially those who love podcasts and love listening to some inspiration and motivation. And if you'd like to connect with me directly, feel free to shoot me an email at dombraidman@gmail.com.